liberating us and want us to move from the place of competition, inferiority and fear to a place of power, influence and courage. Hey everyone, this is Anisha. Hope you're all doing good today. It's good to see you all today. And I would like to talk about Esther from the Bible. His original name was Hadassah. She was living when the nation of Israel was under the rule of Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, and which was then conquered by the Persian Empire. She was living a normal life like any other Jewish girl would live. Her mom and dad had passed away, and so her uncle Mordecai, he took her under his care, adopted her and took care of her as his own daughter. And so at this time, the king of Persia, he had a grand party where he invited all the people, all the nobles, and he decided to bring in Queen Vashti in front of all the nobles. So when he sent word to Queen Vashti, she refused to come in front of him. The king got furious and angry, and he asked the wise advisors what to do. So these wise advisors are the people who know everything about the law and the culture of the Persian Empire. And so they said that Queen Vashti should be banned from the kingdom, that she can't be the queen no more. The advisors advised to bring all the beautiful young women inside the harem, and after all the beauty treatments, they said the king can choose a queen like whoever he's interested in. And so at this time, Esther was a young beautiful woman, and so she was also taken into the harem. At this point, Mordecai, her uncle, said not to reveal her identity as a Jewish woman, and so her name was changed from Hadassah to Esther. So now she was taken into the harem, and she was placed under the official Hegai's care. At that point, the official Hegai, he saw Esther and he had special interest on her, and he treated her kindly, and he started the beauty treatments right off, and he gave special food for her to eat, and also he gave 7 maids to be with her, and he also gave the best rooms for her and for all her maids to stay in. So how did that happen? How did he show such kindness to her? Why did he treat her so kindly? The reason was the favor of God was upon Esther. God made it possible. When the favor of God comes on each and every one of us, whoever the people they are surrounding us, they will help us in the mission that God has called us to fulfill, the destiny, the plans and dreams that God has called us to fulfill. They will help, they will extend their hands, they will stay with us. God will make everything together in such a way that He speaks into the hearts of those people to make everything possible for the divine assignments that God has placed on each and every one of us. That is God's favor. That is purely from Him. He works it for our good. He will bless us and also keep us as a blessing in others' life. He will take us as a vessel of influence, and He will bring healing and breakthrough in others' lives in the generations to come, in whatever area that He is using us for His glory. So now continuing on to Esther's story. Every beautiful woman over there was given 12 months of special treatments. The first 6 months was the treatment with oil of myrrh, and the next 6 months were the treatment with perfumes, cosmetics and all those fragrances. And once all this treatment was over, the young women were given a choice of whatever they would like, the clothing, perfume, accessories. They can ask whatever they like when they move from the harem to the king's quarters. So at this point, unlike other young women, Esther, she requested whatever Hegai would think will be the best for her to wear when she went into the king's quarters. Wow, she did not choose her own jewelry or accessories or cosmetics, but then she decided that Hegai would know much more about the king than her. So she was wise, and also she humbled herself, saying that I would wear whatever Hegai thinks will be the best for me to do. That's the best thing Esther did. So what was the result? What happened? So whoever saw Esther that day, they were all impressed. The king was pleased, and he loved Esther more than any other woman. And he finally chose Esther to be the queen, and so he took the crown and placed it on her head. Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing how good our God is. So what can we learn from this? When we humble ourselves and when we stop making all the efforts to promote ourselves, and just trust on Jesus alone, just hold on to Jesus, just grab on to Jesus, then He will make everything possible. He will promote us. He will elevate us. He will lift our head high. That's really true. When we submit to Him and be humble and just abide in Him, He's the lifter of our heads, and He will do it for His glory. Now let's continue with this story. The king made Haman as one of the worthy officials, like a high official in that nation. Whenever Haman went down the streets, all the people will kneel down, give him honor. And when he saw Mordecai sitting outside the city gates, and Mordecai did not kneel down to him, Mordecai did not give honor to him, and this happened on and on and on. And so Haman was furious. He got angry and decided to kill Mordecai and all his people. So when Mordecai came to know about this, he sent word to Esther. Queen Esther was thinking, what to do? I can't go in front of the king unless he calls me, and it has been 30 days since he called me. If I go without being asked to come, it might result in even in my death. In response to this, Mordecai said that, who would know? For such a time as this, you have been placed in the palace. Just think about it. And Esther finally said that, okay, I'm going to fast for 3 days. I'm going to fast and pray for 3 days. So along with me, you and also the people, fast and pray, and then I will go in front of the king, though he hasn't called me. If I die, then I die. That's what Esther chose. She was brave. Even though she had all that fear inside her, she decided that she would go. But then there was a crossroads that was kept in front of her. Either to just be quiet or to go save her people. Either to go brave in front of the king or to just shrink back in fear. Either to just be quiet, else use that moment where God had placed her to be a blessing for their people and to save them from death. And so finally, after 3 days of fasting and prayer, it was the day Esther put on her royal robes and she went into the inner courts without the king calling her. And when the king saw Esther standing at the entrance, the king was pleased to see her. So that was the favor of God. So the king showed the gold scepter in front of her, and she touched the tip of the scepter. And then the king asked, whatever you have come here for, even if you want half of the kingdom, I'm ready to give you. Wow, the king was ready to give whatever she was about to ask. So Esther asked if the king and Haman could come for dinner that day. So the king agreed, and the king and Haman went, and then even at that place, while they were having dinner, the king asked, so whatever that you want, even if it is half of the kingdom, I am ready to give it to you. So Esther said, can you and Haman come back for dinner tomorrow too? And the king agreed. So now Haman was so happy that the queen has invited only him along with the king. And so while he was going out of the palace down the streets, he saw Mordecai again sitting over there and not kneeling to him or giving him honor. So he was so furious, and even though he did not show that out at that spot, he thought that he has to make an end for it. He has to do something about it. And so while he went home, he planned with his wife and all his friends, and he planned to build a 75 feet high gallows so that he can hang Mordecai on it. And he thought that, I'm going to go first thing in the morning to the palace and ask the king to give permission to hang Mordecai for the thing that he's doing, the honor that he's not giving. And now the king was not getting sleep at that night. The king was sleepless at that night, and so he planned to read through the record books that he had. So he started reading, and then he saw at one instant when Mordecai saved the king's life. When the 2 guards were planning to assassinate the king, Mordecai sent word to the king and saved the king's life. So the king asked the assistant who was with him over there, has Mordecai received honor for this? The assistant said no. And so he called out, who's there in the front courts? And Haman had just entered to get permission to kill Mordecai. And so when Haman was there, the king asked, what can be done to a person whom the king wishes to honor? Haman thought that the king was planning to honor him. So he said, whom the king wishes to honor, he should be given one of the king's finest robes and should be taken around the city squares through one of the king's horses that the king has ridden before. And then the noble official who is taking the horse should say that this is what happens to the one whom the king wishes to honor. And the king said, okay, whatever you said just now, do that all to Mordecai. Haman was astonished, he was ashamed, he was humiliated. He thought that it was him whom the king wishes to honor. But then hearing that now he has to do all that he has said to Mordecai, he was humiliated and ashamed and embarrassed. And so he did everything that the king said. He went back home and he was so angry and furious. The king's officials, they came and rushed him for him to come to the queen's dinner. And so the king and Haman went for the queen's dinner. And now the king asked, what do you want, Esther? And Esther said, could you please save me and my people? Hearing this, the king said, what happened? So who's all behind this? And Queen Esther said, it is Haman who is behind this. He was the one who is planning to kill all my people. And the king got furious and angry. Then he walked out to the palace garden. Haman understood that he was going to face death, and so he wanted to plead for his life to Queen Esther. So he was pleading for his life, and then accidentally he fell over onto the couch where Queen Esther was reclining. And now the king came back from his walk from the palace garden, and seeing that Haman was in the couch of the Queen Esther, he thought that Haman was trying to assault the queen, and he got angry, furious, and he decided that Haman should be hung, that Haman should die. And so Haman was hung on the same 75 feet gallows that he got ready for Mordecai to be hung. And now the king made Mordecai one of the highest official in the nation, and the king gave Queen Esther and Mordecai an authority to make a counter decree to defend for themselves and also to destroy all the enemies in one day. So what the enemy meant for evil, God changed it for good. God is always in control. Haman was trying to destroy all the Jewish people who were there, but then God just turned the plates around and kept them safe. God turned their mourning to dancing, and also God gave them victory over the enemies. So now, what do we learn from this? God is calling each and every one of us to be modern day Esthers. Esther's original name was Hadassah, but then when she went over to the harem to become the queen, she changed her name to Esther. Whatever name that we have now, God is calling you to be the Esther. God is saying, you are the Esther, you are the Esther, you are the Esther. I need you. I'm going to fulfill the plans that I have for you. We are created to be God's glory carriers wherever we go. So it's about time that we arise and be radiant with the glory of the Lord, and also to let the glory of the Lord shine upon us and also shine through us to the nations, to the generations that's coming. It's liberating us and want us to move from the place of competition, inferiority and fear to a place of power, influence and courage. Esther was a normal woman. She was so quiet, and she was wise and humble, and she even hid her identity. When the time came, when the crossroads came, she did not shrink back in fear, but then she trusted God and raised up for the plans, for the assignments, for the divine assignments that God had for her. And what was the result for her obedience to God? Everyone, all the Jewish people were saved from death, and their life was restored. Esther stepped forward trusting God. It would not be possible just by herself. She asked Mordecai and all the other people to fast and pray, and that God will move in their midst. She was not just doing a one-woman thing, but then there was a whole army that was standing behind her. So God is always with us. He never leaves us nor forsakes us. The plans that He has for us is always to prosper us, not to harm us, to give us a hope and a future. So whatever our background may be, or whatever skills or talent we have, if we let God move in our life, then He will surely use it for His glory. God bless you.